The zombie takeout is vast and infinite. What's up? Welcome to episode 283 of Zombie
Takeout,
the B-Movie and Cult Movie Podcast. I'm Uncle John.
And I'm Scotto.
And before we get to this week's movie, we've got some listener submitted. This was posted on the trailer for this week's movie by Danny Meeks on Google+. He said, I need to rewatch this. I haven't seen it in years, but I remember enjoying it. Did you ever play the PlayStation game? It was mainly a driving game, but I remember it being quite good. I've watched an anime movie recently called Gyo Tokyo Fish Attack that I recommend. It was a lot of fun, especially if y'all are into the whole Sharknado thing. Just taking these in order, I didn't play the game because I didn't have a PlayStation for very long. Actually, I've had two PlayStations, but not for very long. I'm more of a PC and now a Mac gamer. So I haven't had a chance to play that. I watched the trailer. Actually, we've both now watched the trailer for Gyo Tokyo Fish Attack.
And damn, I wish we'd watched that instead.
It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. I had replied to Danny saying that I was going to keep an eye out for it, but I think we need to review this next year as our next anime. It looks very, very interesting.
Oh, you're not going to cancel Fido?
No. Relax, Chaz. We are definitely reviewing Fido next week.
Let's not review Fido. Just a silly movie.
Alright, so without any further ado, on to this week's movie, which is from 1995, Ghost in the Shell. Of course, that brings us to the impromptu plot summary, sponsored by cybernetic implants. Just like your stock parts, only better. Isn't it time you upgraded?
And also brought to you by Basil Exposition. When dealing with your exposition in a serious manner, for fuck's sake, don't use Basil Exposition. So we begin with the creation of the Major.
Well, we begin with a bust that's not really explained. It's a very quick scene.
Yeah.
And then we get to the creation of the Major.
We get to the creation of the Major, and we're introduced to this world of people who have sort of upgraded themselves directly into the internet.
Well, there are a lot of people who have cybernetic implants and a lot of people who are jacked directly into the internet.
Right, which is, which, I mean, that was kind of talked about during the 90s quite a bit and by some fringe people, and I thought they were nuts at first.
Yeah, the whole transhumanism thing didn't really take off till the thousands. But it had its roots in the 90s.
And I thought they were nuts back then, but there's people that are going to do it. I can't say without a doubt.
There are people who are already doing it.
Right. Why? Because, I mean, things, become obsolete so quickly, and then you're going to be stuck with an obsolete port surgically.
Well, yeah.
Put into you.
I don't think I've ever mentioned this. I don't even know if you know this. I have a bit of technology in me as is. Because of my disability, they had to put a tube in my neck. Initially, it connected my brain and my spinal column, so spinal fluid could flow through them.
That's different.
I've outgrown it. This is the only technology I want in me. The whole transhumanist thing kind of freaks me out a little bit.
Right. That is something for fucking survival.
Yeah.
I mean, that is completely different, know?
Yeah. I am technically kind of a cyborg. That's why I bring it up. And I've outgrown it. It's outdated.
That is the worst backdoor brag I've ever fucking heard, by the way.
Well, it's relevant to the topic at hand.
It is. Human cyborg relations.
Well, I've always kind of related to C-3PO.
No, I'm talking about people just doing it to either cut corners or for fun.
Yeah.
Fuck that. Like, I can just watch virtual reality or,
Yeah,
No.
and it's to change perfectly working parts. I mean, if an implant could fix my spine, maybe I'd do it.
Of
But,
course.
My eyes, which are kind of crap, I don't think I would upgrade, even with an implant, even if I could.
But people are going to make the argument between like a LASIK surgery
Mm-hmm.
or installing a,
Right.
monitor
Yeah.
on your eyelid. Fuck that. No.
Yeah, I like the perfectly natural eyes, even though they don't work terribly well.
Watch Black Mirror to see why that's a good
Yes,
idea.
yes.
Which is why that's a great show. It's like,
Mhm.
this is all a shit idea.
Mhm.
But anyway, back to our impromptu plot
Yes, yes.
summary. They are hot on the trail of a hacker that goes by the name of Puppet Master, who is who is hacking into different cyborgs and leaving that this is the unit, of course, that we're following
Mhm.
is made mostly of cyborgs and not just jacked people.
Section 9.
Right. And the problem is this hacker is leaving ghosts or each one actually has a ghost,
Mhm.
and this one is hacking into them and leaving additional ghosts.
Yeah.
Sort of a possession, well, they're hacking them. They're machines.
And the
Still.
ghost, in the terms of the movie, is basically the consciousness in the body.
Right.
It's the person in the body. The ghost in the machine, to quote the Police album, and wherever that originated, I don't recall.
I forget the philosopher too, but of course,
Yeah.
they didn't make it up. Sting was good.
Yeah,
but
not that good.
And I said was because,
Mhm.
But anyway. So we go on the chase, of course. There's many gadgets, much titties,
Mhm.
and
Oh, really only at the beginning and end. The rest
yeah,
is just
sure.
kind of a very tight suit she's wearing.
Well, that and like the other cyborg they
Oh, yeah,
found
yeah, yeah.
decent. Yeah, I
Right.
mean, and you know, he of course it was all about her in the first place.
Mhm.
Spoiler.
Right.
If you couldn't see that coming, I can't help you.
Well, I'd forgotten about it, but continue.
So of course does he hack into her completely? Does he eradicate her? Hilarity ensues.
Mhm. And this movie now looks very dated, but in '95, this really was state-of-the-art animation.
Oh, I think the animation is definitely its strongest suit.
Mhm. Yeah,
I
visually, it's even still kind of impressive.
I mean, some of those cityscapes were just fucking gorgeous.
Oh, and that shot with the low-flying plane amazes me
Yes.
every time I see it.
The low flying plane. I'm like, wait, this was before September 11th. Damn.
Well, obviously, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. kind of, I don't
Mhm.
know, kind of creepy.
Yeah.
But I mean, and some of the helicopter shots when they were in the glass,
Mhm.
like conservatory, I think
Right.
it was.
And you mentioned we see the Major being built. That scene is before you really understand what the Major is.
Yeah.
So it's a really nice touch to kind of just give you a little hint of what you're in for. The Major is basically a brain in a completely cybernetic body. It's not mentioned in the movie. It's mentioned in the series that goes along with the movie, Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, that she was in an airplane accident as a kid, and her body ended up in a coma and couldn't survive, and her brain was transplanted into a cyborg body.
Now, wouldn't that have been something good to have added to this?
Yeah, it might have been worth mentioning in the movie. I don't know if they came up with that at the time. The Standalone Complex was well after the movie.
Okay, I was gonna say because like maybe something to humanize her a bit more
Mhm.
would have
Yeah.
done a lot for the story itself because
Mhm.
it was pretty damn hard to get into, honestly, because it was kind of like the old Star Wars spoof with the appliances.
Okay. Hardware Wars, I know what you're referring to. I bet I don't
I
quite
could
see the
not remember the
connection.
name of it.
But I'm not
It's like,
seeing the connection.
look, the toaster oven's chasing the iron.
Oh, well, yeah.
It's kind of like, all right. So the machines are gonna battle it out.
Now, I should mention that this movie is incredibly highly regarded in the anime community. Along
Oh,
with Akira, I've gotten in the habit of pronouncing it correctly now. It's considered one of the anime that popularized anime in the West. It's considered a masterpiece. Akira and Ghost in the Shell are basically the Citizen Kane and Godfather of anime, or at least they're regarded that way.
So can we call this one the Citizen Kane, since
Well,
we're kind of mad about it?
yeah, actually, that was completely unintentional on my part. But much like Citizen Kane, I'm in the vast minority who thinks it is kind of overrated.
Yeah.
I mean, I liked it more this time. I think the first time I was just kind of bugged out by the whole transhumanist thing. But the movie for me has one major flaw. And I don't know if this is an issue with the manga or not. It's based on a manga also called Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
This could go back to the source material. Whoever is responsible for this aspect of it really just doesn't understand the idea of show it, don't say it.
I started watching this with the dub,
Mm-hmm.
and the dub was just so...
The dub's not great. I mean, it's passable, but it's not great.
It was fucking horrendous the way they were just shoehorning all of this exposition and just
Is that not in the sub?
Right. So I switched to the sub, and then I'm getting like
it's in the sub, because I don't know if I've ever watched the sub, actually, come to think of it.
And the Japanese actress and actor that were doing the scene
Mm-hmm.
were almost as bad
as the English,
as the dub too. I mean, the dub was pretty. I mean, did they just get like homeless guys off the street and give them scripts?
It's not Star Blazers. Let's be honest here. It's not the worst dub in the world, but it's not a particularly good one either.
Well, Star Blazers was fucking nuts.
Yeah.
let's be honest.
Yeah, fair enough.
You can't compare the two.
Yeah.
I mean, that was on a different level of reality there.
Right.
They were trying to do a serious film here.
True. And it's not a particularly good dub. It's very B-movie acting.
Right. They needed solid voice performances here, or it just wasn't going to work. And that, probably the crux of what was wrong with this.
And in fairness, this was a bit before a company called Funimation came along, who were really responsible for a lot of the really good dubs that we get now. But this was kind of par for the course at the time.
But even the vocal actors in Japanese were pretty bad too, honestly. They were very wooden, some of them. Like, normally, I love watching... I mean, even fucking, Zatoichi movie or something, where it's just kind of like, they're kind of phoning it in, but it's fun at least. Whereas this, of course, doesn't have room to be fun.
Right.
Which leads to the other complaint. They were trying to give it a Michael Mann sort of feel.
Well, yeah, it does feel very Miami Vice, very 80s. The Major's design is also very 80s.
Like, the one human cop that they were working with was definitely like a Don Johnson kind of...
I was actually thinking, was it Buto, her sidekick, and the Major are very Crockett and Tubbs. I think it was the scene on the boat that made me think that.
I wasn't thinking of him as Crockett. I was thinking of the other human.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. The one who carried the revolver,
hair and the mullet almost.
Right. Visually, he was more Crockett, definitely.
Wearing like the white sports jacket. I was like, dude, this is mid-90s, man.
But my other issue with it kind of goes to what you're saying about the exposition. It's not just the exposition that's stated too clearly. All of the philosophy is spelled out.
Yeah.
Most of the motivations are spelled out. It just spoon feeds everything to the viewer, and I think I've proven by this point that I really don't like that. I much prefer to have to do the work on my own.
Of course, especially for a movie like this.
Yeah.
And for people to act like these things have never been, like, even talked about in a movie, it's like, this was pretty much Blade Runner.
Yeah, actually, come to mention it.
I mean,
to think of it.
It is about the humanity that can be found in a computer, or, vice versa.
Yeah. And speaking of recycling ideas, this actually served as the inspiration for The Matrix. The Wachowskis saw it and apparently went to Joel Silver and said, "We want to do this for real." And I remember when I saw The Matrix, walking out of the theater thinking that was a live-action anime. And it didn't impress me for that reason. Because I'd seen it before. Anime had done it before, and just using CG to do it on film isn't that different from using, animation to do it. So, they borrowed from this borrowed from Blade Runner, and, well, actually, one of my perspective titles was William Gibson, the Animation. So, Neuromancer, pretty much his entire library is borrowed from here. Philip K. Dick, all of the classic cyberpunk authors. Now, there were some good moments. The chase scene and shootout in the market was really nicely done. Some of the best animation of its time, I think.
Oh, yeah. Visually, going back to that, I mean, this was a really good movie, just on the visuals alone.
And I think the major speech about cybernetics and, identity and all that kind of fit, because they're out on the boat. I think they were drinking.
Is that the parts were made of scene?
Yeah, it kind of fit the character.
It was just too much.
It fit the character. They were a little drunk. They were on a boat. It made sense that would come up. And I do like that they didn't give away that the Major is almost entirely cybernetic from the go. That they held on to that information for a while.
But when you see her maid, I mean...
Well, but you don't know that's her necessarily. I don't know if I put it together immediately. Now, the director commented that his use of philosophy caused producers to become frustrated because of sparing use of action. He acknowledged that a movie with more action would sell better, but he continued to make a movie like this anyway. I'm not the biggest action fan in the world, but there should have been more.
Yeah, it definitely needed some more.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a plane crash with her on it in the beginning, I think would have...
you really want to spell all of that out.
I mean, I think it would have...
Yeah, maybe. And then show the body being built, yeah.
Right, because, I mean, it needed more humanity in it, is the problem. Because even, the actual person that they were working with was too fucking wooden.
Yeah. And a lot of the Major's movements seemed really sort of clumsy and stiff.
Yeah.
Except when she was fighting.
Right.
On those rare occasions.
Yeah, that's pretty funny to think about. We haven't really put much into how it walks and moves around generally, but when it comes to fighting, it's gonna fucking move like you wouldn't believe.
Right. Now, there is one nice head fake. They show a few mannequins before you see the other cyborg body, the blonde one, that the puppet master is in.
Oh, yeah.
So when that body gets hit by a truck, you think it's just a mannequin. Or until it turns and, has a facial expression. At first you think it's just a mannequin. And of course the puppet master scene is where the philosophy really gets way too heavy-handed. Because he goes on a rant.
Yeah.
Practically a sermon.
Right. He's just kind of like, fuck, no.
And then the exposition gets kind of ridiculous because you have random guy with beard who you've never seen before just completely explaining what's going to happen in the rest of the movie. It was just, okay, who is this guy and why is he, explaining everything now?
Right. And you're not necessarily using the best script if it has to be explained. Right. You can't actually just show it. Then you're might as well just have people hanging out with scripts and just kind of doing
might as well table read.
Yes.
There were a few things at the end that I didn't really predict. I didn't pick up that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was going after the Major as well, and I was kind of surprised when the puppet master said he wanted to merge with her, though it did make a lot of sense in hindsight, and it was kind of predictable.
And I think that's why they were going after the Major. And it's why I wasn't surprised to see them going after the Major because, well, of course, they're the evil, corporate people, government people, bureaucrats.
Evil overlords.
Right. And, they had to try to get rid of the puppet master, and they probably knew the puppet master was going after her and probably merged with her already.
Mm-hmm. Now, do we want to spoil the very end? Because it is quite a shock.
I didn't really find it all that shocking.
You didn't?
Yeah, I kind of saw a lot of that coming.
I think it's safe to say this won't end up on the rec list. So, So the Major's body gets destroyed while she's trying to tear apart a tank and getting shot at by, paramilitary commandos.
Yeah.
Actually, I think they were actual military. And
Yes.
so, she passes out, and her partner, presumably takes her away, and she wakes up in the body of a little girl. And it's the Major's head on a little girl's body. One of the fucking creepiest things I've ever seen.
Oh, those Japanese.
And it's like Claudia from Interview with the Vampires. That's how she has to live the rest of her life, presumably.
Wow. Until she finds another body.
Until she can find a new body or get that one destroyed and upgrade. I don't know.
Just saying, it's just like, okay, so it's a machine, just find another body.
She just kind of walks off and says, the net is vast and whatever my opening was, the net is vast and infinite, and that's the end of the movie.
Well, yeah, because leaving room for a sequel, of course.
Yes.
And that's the problem, because it was just, okay, so, they merged. The military probably had good reason for getting rid of her. And then she got saved. And now, the puppet master still lives.
Yeah. The bad guy is alive in the body of, or merged with the good guy. This kind of gets into my final major issue with it. It doesn't feel like a full story.
No.
It's an episode.
No, it doesn't.
I think that's why it kind of feels like a Miami Vice to me, is it feels like an episode of an 80s cop show.
We keep saying Miami Vice and Michael Mann, and it's not just because the dude was dressed like Crockett. There's a lot of, scenes and just use of visual effects that were just straight from Miami Vice. Like, anytime they were on the water or whatever, they were moving something. I mean, they were going to bust something up.
Right.
It was just like Michael Mann had directed it, which is, I don't really like that in my anime. What can I say?
I liked that when it was on the air when I was a kid. I haven't revisited it. I don't think I would enjoy it now.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
10 years later, not so much.
Anyway, you mentioned sequels. On to sequels and remakes?
Yes, on to sequels and remakes.
In 2004, Oshii, the director, directed Innocence, billed as a separate work, not a true sequel to Ghost in the Shell, but it's often considered kind of a spiritual successor.
Then there was no actual sequel to it?
Well, in 2008, he released an updated version called Ghost in the Shell 2.0 that featured new audio and updated computer graphics. And there is talk of a sequel, a Ghost in the Shell 2. There's, like with the live action of Akira, there's always, interest in it. I don't know if there's been a proper sequel as of yet. Of course, we're leaving out the elephant in the room, the reason we're talking about it this week. The live action American...
The updated audio for 2.0. I mean, so...
I don't know if it's a new dub.
Okay, I was going to say, they obviously saw some trouble here, too, I think.
I should probably check out 2.0 briefly just to see if it's a new dub.
I think that's probably a good idea. Yeah. But yeah, the elephant in the room.
The live action American version coming out next year starring Scarlett Johansson. Okay, even disregarding the whole whitewashing thing.
I don't see the controversy with this, though, because...
I don't see Scarlett Johansson as the Major. I don't see her pulling off the role.
It's a role she's done already, I think.
But she hasn't done it terribly well.
Like, she's done, what was the movie? Like, it was Amy, I think it was, or something like that. Lucy?
Yeah, I didn't see Lucy.
Name. As you can tell, I have not either.
The closest I've seen her get to this is Iron Man 2. She was kind of a badass version of Widow, and unlike Widow in Avengers, who was horrible. And I don't know that she could pull that off for an entire movie as a lead character. And you were saying you don't get the controversy. It is set in Japan, I think. It's based on Tokyo. They don't not Tokyo, Hong Kong.
Of course.
I don't think they actually specifically say that at any point.
Well, of course it's set in Japan. I mean, it's a Japanese movie.
Yes.
But the Major in this has blue eyes.
Yeah, yes. And she doesn't necessarily look Japanese. She is Makoto Kusanagi, so,
her partner has blonde hair.
Yeah.
I mean...
Nobody really looks Japanese.
Right. the thing is, if they're built, they can be
Mhm.
built out of any ethnicity.
True. Good
They're
point.
not
Good point.
necessary. It does
Um,
not necessarily set to Japanese because they're in Japan.
mhm. I saw a video by a YouTube anime reviewer, Gig UK, who basically said the same thing. The major is cybernetic. She can look however they want her to look.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean,
I just don't think we need a new version of this because, as you can tell, I don't really think we necessarily needed the original.
well, you're right. That was a much bigger mystery. Sitting there going, why are they doing this? Why do we need another version?
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe
And
if
this
they
has
make a
been
better
considered by many to be a heretic in the anime community. I just want to point that out.
if they make a better script than
Yeah.
this, I mean, because the potential here
Yeah, it's a great
is
universe.
fantastic, even though it's not entirely original.
Mhm.
The idea of what they're talking about.
I have seen a handful of episodes of Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, and that is a lot better. I do have to recommend that. Because it doesn't get into all the philosophical nonsense, at least not nearly as heavy-handedly.
Well, remove the crazy Michael Mann thing.
Mhm.
Uh, smooth out the whole philosophy and exposition, and I think they've got something here, and a little bit more action too.
Mhm.
And yeah, it has the potential to be a great film, and
Yeah.
we know Hollywood's not going to do
Oh,
that.
of course, no.
Are you kidding?
The only anime live-action adaptation that I'm aware of that has actually been made is Dragon Ball Evolution, which is a joke. Akira, of course, has been stuck in development. Hell will hopefully stay there. Ghost in the Shell is happening. I don't even know if any of others have been even talked about. At least not by Hollywood. Oh, there's supposedly a Death Note adaptation, which is going to be interesting. Anyway, on the brains?
On the brains.
I'm tempted to go down a bit, but I think I'll stay at 4 just for its reputation. It is very highly respected, so I do at least want to give it I'll say a cursory recommendation.
It's a pretentious version of Blade Runner.
True.
And we also had Terminator. I mean, so I mean, it was drawn beautifully though.
Yeah.
And they attempted a nice plot, but it was just too clumsily delivered. 2 brains.
All right. And what have we learned?
Oh, we learned when the time gets tough, you gotta take out those titties.
And I learned to never, ever plug my brain into a computer. Nothing good can come from that.
Of course.
All right, so until next time when we'll be reviewing Fido. Yes, Chaz, it's finally going to be here.
Oh, I think I'm coming down with something.
Until then, go to zombietakeout.com, check out the album art, the episode description, of course, the episode itself, which you're already listening to. Links to find us on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and YouTube. Links to subscribe via RSS and iTunes. Please leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. We'd really appreciate it. Also, if you enjoy the show, spread the word. Give us a little word of mouth. Of course, we appreciate all the listeners we have, but more would be better.
I have a feeling we're going to have some very positive reviews from the anime community.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to be posting this in the anime community that I'm in on Google+. The feedback should be quite interesting.
Yeah.
And on the anime show that I do, we've talked about doing Akira and Ghost in the Shell back to back because my co-host and I have pretty much opposite opinions of both movies.
Oh, wow.
That should be a very interesting conversation because I love Akira, as we talked about years ago. And
I had to look up what I gave that, and I think I was a 5 brain
yeah,
on that
we
one.
both gave that one 5s.
It's a fucking awesome movie.
This is only the second anime not to make the rec list, I want to point out. And it's one of the most highly regarded.
But, I mean, the others were just so much better, like Tokyo Godfathers.
Yeah. Of course, you'll find the movie list, every movie we reviewed so far, and every movie we are going to review, till at least 300, a bit beyond that. Still not revealing it yet, but you'll like it. Trust us.
I've dropped a hint this episode.
I missed it entirely.
I did.
Okay. Of course, the request form, if you've got a movie you'd like to hear, please leave it on the request form. First, you can also do that on our social media, as Danny did with the anime this week and with Intrepid as Punks last week. And of course the recommendations list. I had a feeling this wasn't going to make it, even though I knew I was giving it a 4. I kind of just sensed that you weren't going to be nearly as generous.
I was surprised. I assumed it was going to be. I mean, I've heard the reputation. I was kind of surprised that it didn't live up to it.
Yeah. Of course, you can email us on metakeat@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail at 414-368-CT01 or for the alphanumerically challenged.
You can go fuck yourself.
Interesting delivery there.
What?
414-368-9861. Of course, always remember that you'll always be calling from the middle of Milwaukee. And until next time, always remember, never forget, wherever you go in life, there you are.
Aw, out of ammo.
This was posted on the trailer for this week's movie, by Danny Meeks on Google+.